me of a very important point. And first of all, I want to thank him for coming up to me and raising that point. I don't know if he's here, but if he's not here, then those inshallah who know him, that you can convey it to him inshallah. And second of all, I want to just say thank you to all the parents who are in the audience for all the efforts that they're putting forth to take care of their children, to guide them towards a straight path. And we owe a lot to our parents, and for their good for their good health and their sustenance and their guidance in this world and hereafter. Please recite Allah's salawat. So he pointed out a very important reminder, which is that if the parents themselves are setting an example for their children based on Islamic principles, then why are you saying that you shouldn't take from your parents? And that's absolutely right. Many of our parents are doing their best, and they've moved away from just doing things blindly. Okay, they're trying to understand, okay, what is the Islamic way of doing this? And they're adapting, and they realize that the Islamic way may differ from the cultural way of doing things. And in those cases, if our parents are doing the right thing, they are the model for us for what Islam says, for example, on how to live a happily married life, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us one of the greatest blessings possible by giving us role models in our parents. And so we should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because, what more wonderful thing that you can have for your parents to be Muslims, for your parents to be mu'min, and for your parents to be good examples as well too on how to lead an Islamic life. Now that's excellent if that's the case. But sometimes it's not the case. And in those cases we need to move away. Let me just give you one example, and then we'll end with that inshallah. In some cultures, when it comes to marriage, it's part of the culture that the wife should demand a very high sum of money as a dowry before she agrees to marry the husband. I'm talking about a lot of money, brothers and sisters. A lot. Okay? Like piles of gold. Alright? Like literally piles of gold. They had a TV show in Iran, and it was a very sad TV show to watch, where they showed a prison, and the prison is specific for those men who were asked to submit dowries by their wives, and because the dowry was too high for them to pay, they were thrown into prison. So these men, they haven't committed, crimes, like they haven't stabbed someone in the back or stolen, from the treasury, or I don't know, done drugs or something like that. Their only crime was that they committed to getting married to somebody who asked a lot of money, and they're probably they were desperate to get married, and they're just like, okay, fine, she's never going to ask me for this pile of gold or anything like that. But then, she turns around and asks for the gold. Maybe, they have a divorce, or she just asks for it, and he's not able to produce it because he agreed to something way beyond his means, and so he's thrown into prison. And they're just sitting in prison, they're languishing in prison, just waiting for some generous donor to come by and to say that, okay, these people, let's help them out, let's give them the dowry so they can pay off their wives. So what I'm saying is that some cultures have this as part of the culture. Now, what is the Islamic perspective on this? Islam says that, okay, first of all, dowry is a good thing. A woman should ask for a dowry. Second of all, the husband should not promise a dowry beyond his means. If he says he's agreeing to give a dowry, but he actually intends something else, then there's traditions which severely condemn this. Third of all, it's recommended that the dowry be little. It shouldn't be too much. It's mustahab. It's mustahab for the dowry to be not more than mahr sunnah. The mahr, for example, that the Imam Ali gave to Bibi Fatima, or the other marriages that the Prophet had with his wives. And that amount, if you calculate it, it depends on the price of silver, but right now it's around $700 to $750. So it shouldn't exceed that amount of money. It's mustahab. And it's mustahab for a wife that when she gets the dowry, she should give it back to the husband as a gift. Okay, now, if I'm a person and I have not accepted this idea of submission, I'm still just going about doing things just with my own thought, then I might look at this and say that, wait a minute, this is safety for the wife, right? I mean, after all, she's committing to this, she's giving up so much, how can she ask for a small dowry? If I'm a person who just goes by the culture, then I'll be like, okay, well, what did my parents do? What is everyone else doing? Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask for, there's a wife, I'm going to ask for a huge dowry. But if I'm a person who looks at things from the Islamic perspective and says that, no, I submit and I know that God knows better, then I'll be like, okay, fine, I'll accept. And then I can go about trying to understand, why does God say that you should take small dowries? And you should take a dowry, ask for a small dowry. Number one is you should ask for dowry because, after all, this is something important here. Okay, it's not that like marriage is not a small matter. People should take it seriously. So it's good to ask for something. But why ask for a small dowry? Because if somebody is worried that somehow, if they don't ask for a big dowry, that they are going to be prevented from risk. They're going to be poor as a result. They'll be ripped off as a result. Well, they have lost faith in God being the sustainer. Because God promises that He's going to take care of us. If God takes care of the wife when she's at her husband's home, then He can do that. If, for example, there's a divorce and she goes somewhere else, then God can change his address. He knows that change of address. We don't even have to file a change of address form, and He can send the risk there as well too. Okay, He's capable of that. Inna Allaha huwa ar-razzaqu dhul quwwati al-mateen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most, He's extremely capable of delivering sustenance and taking care of the needs of His servants. And He's very powerful, He's very mighty. So why do we fear that if we don't ask for that big dowry, then somehow we will be ripped off? That's not the spirit of submission that we're taught in the Quran and that our intellect leads us to. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to learn the laws of Islam, to accept them with an open heart, an open mind, and to act upon them so that we can see the benefits of getting to become aware of the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our lives. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So inshallah we'll do the ziyarah, and then about 10 minutes later we will, for those who want to stick around, we'll do the spiritual discourses.